everyone, it's Lou Collins. Welcome to CraftWorld and welcome to another template video. Today we're going to be looking at this template that has come from Papercraft Essentials in issue 224. Now this is called a Cascade card template. It's been made using the cat and dog, I think it was called Pets at Home, or Pets in the Home, Pets at Home collection from CraftStash, but I'm going to make it with some of my textures floral folk art collection instead. So we'll come to that in a minute when it gets to decorating, but let's put the base together first of all. Now, the beauty of some of these magazine templates is that they actually give you measurements as well as the template to scale. So when it's to scale, you can spray it and you can stick it onto your cardstock with repositionable glue, which is what I do. And I always spray the template. I don't spray the card because the template's where the glue is going to reside later. You'll have residue on your cardstock if you spray the cardstock instead. So just giving that a few seconds to start drying and then pop that onto an A4 sheet of cardstock. There we go. So you've got two options. You can either take your trimmers to this or you can take your scissors to this and cut along the solid lines. Now you notice that there's actually no outer lines on three edges. What you need to do is use the ends of these lines as a guide. So it may just be, I think my printer probably just missed the lines off, but that's where your trimmer is going to be more helpful for you in this case. So what I'd suggest is, rather than butting your template up to the guide on the ruler, is to actually just put your line, the solid line on the edge here, into the ruler guide there, and then if you're using a Creative Craft Products trimmer, use the orange cutting blade and cut along that line. Now once you've got that line cut along, you can then start butting up against there, and we're going to cut just to the ends of each of these little lines here. So just making sure that that's all perfectly straight and at a right angle, and work your way round. The same here. So this diagonal line here, the end there is where I'm going to cut across to. There we go. Try to get it as close as possible. And then one more here. So put your ruler down, have a look through the gap where the blade is going to run, making sure that that's in the right place, like so. Okay, so then you want to put your diagonal line into the guide as well, and you can do this by hand if you prefer with scissors, and cut this into two pieces. Now they should be two identical pieces, like so. And then what we're going to do is just use our trimmer, and again you're not going to be able, well you can use your guide, but you'll need to come from the top here and just cut up to, I just tend to go near the top of the line, and then I just edge forwards until I've cut to the top. So a little bit further, there we go, and do this along all three lines, and you'll want to do it on the other piece as well, the other half. So then you'll notice you have dotted lines on each of these halves, and that's where you want to use your scoring blade. And if you don't have a scoring blade on your trimmer, you'll need to bring in a scoreboard or something similar and just score these lines. If you're completely new to paper crafting and you don't yet have these tools, you can use a ruler and something like a ball tool or a bone folder to score a line, and then fold it and crease it as best you can in that place. So there's 4 score lines for you to do, 2 on each half. And I tend to, if you notice with my scoring tool on here, I tend to go over a few times. I'm going through paper and I'm going through cardstock here. There we go. So I can pop my trimmer to the side now, and I can discard my scraps. Now I can also take off my template, but I'm going to pop that to the side because I will reuse this when I get to the stage of doing my mats and layers. So you've got 2 halves, and these will want to be like so. So I've actually used a textured cardstock, which isn't ideal because it's not going to be as easy to line up your texture and your smooth sides, but either way, it'll be fine. So we want to cascade, as we say, these are cascading cards. So you want to cascade each section into 3 parts, like so. So concertina fold, so just like a zigzag. And then you also want to do the same with the other one, but just make sure that you're actually folding the opposite direction. So when you folded the two, you should have one each with the bottom panel, the smaller panel, facing outwards. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, but we can do it. So we're going to slot into each other the halves. So the two back panels are going to slot into each other. So one from the base, one from the top, okay? And then we're going to do the same for the others. So what I suggest is pull that one out a little bit. And because I've used a thin cardstock, I can actually bend this one round as well. And the same for this one. Just be gentle with your cardstock, don't force it. But you should be able to bend them round until you have something like this. So push each one down, make sure they are even, and they should all fold flat. Now once you're here, you can take yourself a bone folder and you can fold each of these creases nice and strong. You might be able to see there actually the texture difference. So on alternate sides I've got I've actually got textured and smooth. So ideally if you can use a cardstock that's the same on both sides, that will help. So what I like to do here now is just to come to the back panel, and I take a piece of tape. This isn't essential, but this just, for me, it just helps hold everything together. And I take a piece of tape, low tack tape's fine, and I just place that over the back panel. So the back panel, I'm quite happy for that to stay flat and not to move around too much, and that just holds everything together. So then we're going to want to cut some mats and layers. Now you've got a choice, you can do all of the shapes or you can just do a few of them. I'm going to do just a few, so I'm going to start at the front. I'm probably only going to do the front ones, to be honest, but I'll use these. I'll use the templates beforehand because these have got each of the mats and layers on there really as a template that I can use. So white cardstock. Put this onto there, and the template should still be sticky if you've used repositionable glue. If you haven't used repositionable glue and you've used your measurements, you'll need to just take a little bit off your measurements and work out what your mats and layers will be. There's one, then I'll do this the other side. There's two. Now what I'm going to do so that we can look down each of these is work out which ones I want to have the white on. So for me it's going to be this one and this one. So it's going to be, as I look at my template here, it's going to be the smaller panel here, then it's going to be this panel, so the smaller of this third and the smaller of this third, and I'm going to do the same on both. Now when I'm cutting my mats and layers, I tend to do this by eye, but you can of course measure and you can cut properly. I tend to take around about 5 millimeters away from each of the edges from the section that I'm cutting. So if I just show you one, so I'm just cutting inside the lines there. And I'm not going to glue this on just yet, but just to show you, that should then sit nicely on the front of that panel with about 5 millimeters or so all the way around the edge there. So I'm going to repeat that for my chosen panels. So there's the 6 pieces that I'm going to put onto my card, but before I put them on, I'm going to use the bold floral background embossing folder from Textures, and I'm just going to, this is from the Floral Folk Art collection, I'm going to see if I can fit all of these into my folder first of all. I think they should go with a little bit of jiggling, maybe not, maybe we'll just do a couple at a time. So let's do 3 at a time just to be safe. And before I emboss those, I'm going to put some Distress Oxide ink just over my pad, sorry, not my pad, my embossing folder here on the reverse side. So on the one that's going to emboss the front, that side, and it's usually got the black on the front there. So this is just pumice stone, so it's a very, very pale ink there, and I'm going on to white cardstock. The cardstock is slightly pearlized, and just straighten those up. and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. And to run that through, I do need to remove this. This is a brand new machine, so I need to remove the green plate there in a Big Shot. So I've embossed my 6 panels, and by having that grey on there, that's just enhanced the emboss a lot. So hopefully you can see that on that pearlised cardstock. It's really just given it a little more depth as well, which is lovely. So I've just popped those 3 on there. I don't want to fill the entire front with panels. I mean, you can do if you'd like to, but I quite like having that difference between the dark and light. And then I'm going to do some decorating now. I've already started preparing elements from the layering butterflies. So this one actually is a bit like a moth, but butterfly moth either way. And I've got one more here that I need to layer up. Now I've chosen to go with a sort of coral colour, grey, white and black for these. So just layering up. They come in a few different parts, and you can pick and choose how much you use. So you can just use the butterfly like that. You could just use the solid butterfly if you wish, or you could use all of the pieces as I am. And you can of course lift the wings and such. So I did here. Now I'm using the same colours for both, but staggering the colours differently. So I've got the black body of the butterfly there, whereas I had the black underneath of the moth there. I like to bring things like black into my cards because I just think the contrast is really lovely and it makes it stand out. So just gluing down there the body of the butterfly up to the edge of that panel, and I'm not going any further because I don't want it to be caught in the crease. This moth is going to go up here, and again I'm going to angle it so that it's not caught in the crease there, so it can open up quite a way and close. So I'm just going to glue the bottom of this wing down here. There we go, and then I've just got the phrase beautiful. I could put it like that. I think I'll put it like so. Now if you know me, you know I like to overlap elements of my cards so that they sort of stick out a little bit. Obviously this need to bear in mind what's going on there before you make yourself an envelope, but I like that because we've got butterflies kind of hovering, so this is going to need a much larger envelope or a gift box of course. And lastly I'm just going to bring in a few little gems. There's one there we go, so just some sparkle scattered around there. So there we have a pretty card made using the template that is free for you to download on CraftWorld. It came in Papercraft Essentials issue 224, and you can make a card like this using the Textures Floral Folk Art collection, or of course you can decorate in any way you wish. If you take a look at CraftWorld, there's a lovely card on there as an example using the Pets at Home, My Pets at Home range, so you'll be able to take a look at that for inspiration too. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care.